Hi everyone, I hope I am audible. Okay, so today will be a very uh, brief introduction to the ethics class that we are starting from 18th. If it is audible, let me know. Fine, so this ethics program for 25-26, this program has one primary element. Now, obviously, we often ask ourselves what is the domain of the study of ethics, right? We have discussed certain things. That lecture you can find on the YouTube. This class is mainly only for the information. So we are starting the batch from 18th of September, and roughly we'll have around 1 month of classes. Okay, these classes would be divided into a kind of, restructuring of the syllabus, right? It cannot be just done as per the given parameters of the UPSC, because UPSC gives the syllabus merely for indication. So the primary aspect of the study would be first to start with the definitions. The definition does not mean merely the elaboration of a particular idea. The definition obviously requires for us to first understand the core epistemology, right? The core epistemology means that what exactly is the idea behind a particular topic, right? Obviously, there are a lot of confusing terms in ethics, right? We use them. We more or less try to incorporate them in the answers when we write. But you always have to keep in mind that every term, every vocabulary has a specific placement. You cannot simply write anything anywhere. Secondly, when you are dealing with the case studies, right, these case studies also require lot of content, lot of terminologies from here. For example, if you are looking at the any, let's say, situation related to corruption, right, or bribery. Obviously, bribery is a part of corruption, right? Corruption has a very typical aspect of abuse of authority. Now, if you start defining corruption merely from the Prevention of Corruption Act 1988, right, that would make the entire exercise meaningless, because we are not just supposed to define that corruption. We are supposed to first make the examiner understand what is the domain of this particular term which has been used in the case study. So whenever there is abuse of authority, right, there is an inherent acceptance that the system lacks the accountability somewhere. It is only possible then that somewhere or somebody has misused the authority primarily because there is lack of accountability. If there is lack of accountability, right, it is obvious that this is not something which has happened once, right? This is not something which is uh, occurring only as an event. It is more of a system. So this lack of accountability is systemic, right, and not just procedural. Fine. Now, so obviously this is one very important aspect which we'll deal with, right? So all of you who have an iota of doubt regarding what they have studied, if you really feel that this is one of the areas in general studies which can be, honed and developed into a very formidable area of, scoring marks to the tune of 140, 150, right? Which obviously all of you can do, provided that you have started on the right note. So all those people who are willing to, improve their scores or develop their understanding or improve ultimately the overall size of the marks in the general studies, they need to keep a very important eye on this particular topic, right? There are, as we have talked about, there are two parts. One is the theoretical, the other is the practical or the applied aspect, right? So the theoretical aspect and the practical, or I would say the applied aspect, they have a very strong correlation, right? Theory is basically the description. And when we deal with the applied aspect, we merely see the reflection of this description here, or somewhere we try to understand what is happening through the description that we have studied here. So theory will help us understand the nuances, the undercurrents of what is happening, right? So there will be a lot of focus we'll be applying on first in understanding what exactly is the theoretical basis. Second, how this theoretical basis can be used, right, in a better manner while understanding the concepts and ultimately the case studies. How case studies can be, you know, uh, understood in terms of diverse elements which are there, not necessarily just the factual exercise, but there are a lot of hidden aspects in the case studies, right, in which we can maximize our marks, right? So that we'll try to integrate, right? Also, there are a lot of contemporary issues which become the fodder or the feed for the case studies, right? A lot of contemporary issues, let's say, for example, a bureaucrat or a civil servant, right, acted in a particular way, right, and the government terminated him, or government initiated the removal of that civil servant, right? As recently, the union government had taken action against more than 250 income tax officers or revenue service officers of varied, status in the system. So, if the government has taken this initiative, right, probably the ground on which they were removed was incompetence. Now, this gives us a lot of fodder for the case studies because incompetence is a very important ground. Underperformance is a very important ground, right, which has not been duly defined in the laws. That what exactly is the underperformance? What exactly is incompetence? What is the incapability or incapacity of a civil servant to deal with the problems and issues for which he has been trained and he's paid for that? Right? Then let us say if you are, uh, removing someone for or suspending someone for insubordination. So obviously insubordination also is a very gray area, that whether insubordination means not accepting the orders or replying back to the superior or reacting to the superior, or the communication done by the superior is not well accepted by the subordinate. Fine. So there are various I would like to say various checkered, they're not very clear cut, idea or clear cut, definition of these terms. So this requires a detailed understanding, right? It also requires somewhere understanding the practical functioning of the government, that is the governance, not merely some RTI or some laws, but it requires the dominant understanding of the undercurrents of the governance. So we'll try to deal with that, right? It is not a very theoretical paper, to be honest. Fine, there are a lot of concepts which we need to understand, but these are not. This is not a very theoretical paper. If we start uh, only using the data and facts, then also it's a problem. If we start just giving examples, then also it is a problem. Why? Because when you have to write a theory, we have to first conceptually understand it. There has to be a content, right, which should be enough to write a descriptive answer. If you are asked a question on attitude, value system, or public service values, or public service ethics, or let us say conflict of interest, or for that matter, if you say rights-based approach, or let's say the idea of justice, theory of justice, uh, or Amartya Sen's view regarding entitlements. So how a student is going to answer that, that's very important, right? It's not just about knowing the content and having a detailed, factual knowledge about it. Okay, lot and lots of impact in the examination takes place merely because the expression, the way we have expressed something, has not been up to the mark. So we will look into those aspects, right? answer writing, analysis, concept building, then understanding practically the things around us, right? A shopkeeper doesn't give you a bill, fine, that's an unethical trade practice. But then you also don't demand the bill, right? So you cannot simply put the onus of being unethical on the shopkeeper, right? There is a mutual ethical bargain between both of you, or mutual unethical bargain between both of you. So when you are dealing with a particular issue or a case at hand, we have to look into the fine nuances of everything, right? Being good and doing good, right? These are very different performing a duty, right? And being committed to a duty. Okay, these are two different things. So many times we perform our duty very efficiently, but we are not committed to the duty. So if you uh, analyze into small things, right? If we start picking up those, what you can say, the dotted lines, then probably we'll be able to complete the entire uh, uh, content, or the level of knowledge required to perform this paper very well. Best thing is that this paper can be done in a very short span of time. It can be done with a very basic understanding of governance. That also will tell you. It can also be done in terms of writing, in terms of attempting and practicing the questions, because that again is more of your day-to-day observation. So if you have a strong common sense, if you have even studied it and probably not able to, visualize what is the core aspect of this study, if you have been able to, understand, let us say, the basic ideas, but you have not been able to translate that into an answer, right? So you are welcome to, join this program, right? It's very, well developed, meticulously designed program, right? With a very basic, you can say, fee. Being one-fourth of the general studies, it has a lot of overlapping with other areas also, whether you talk about social justice or governance, polity, Indian society. There are a lot of elements from this also which you can use there. Or if you have studied them, you can also use it. But here, when you study, you'll be able to apply them more easily in those areas also, right? Issues related to reservation, issues related to positive discrimination, conflicts, communalism, globalization, and its impact, technology, AI, future of human societies, civilizations. So a lot of areas we'll try to this ethics, that ethics, a lot of things are there, right? Normative to empirical. So a lot of aspects we'll deal with, right? But that will be more seamless in nature. We are not going to burden you with memorizing things. That is not our style. We never do that. So you won't feel, burdened or baggaged by the content we are going to study. Fine. So see you then in the class, 18th onwards. Right? Thank you all for listening. Have a great day. Thank you.